Welcome to the IonaHoops.com podcast with your host, Guy Flatico.
It's Season 2, Episode 30 of the IonaHoops.com podcast. And though I won't bludgeon you with as many Ionas this time around, we've got some nuggets to share. And we're also going to have a return guest from the very early days of this podcast, Brandon Goble from JUCO Advocate. Brandon will be here to drop some knowledge about Iona Gael Daniss Jenkins. So summer's just about here. Warm up with Brandon and I and get out there in the sunlight. Take us along for the ride and give us a listen as we bring you plenty of Iona Hoops goodness. But hey now, it's Iona Iota time.
Iona Iotas.
This Monday is Iona Athletics Hall of Fame golf outing at Waikato Country Club, and thanks to all of you, IonaHoops.com will be represented once again on What Else? The Beer Cart. Hopefully we get some nice weather, and this event should be a fun one for sure. And who knows, maybe even we'll pick up a hoops nugget or two along the way that night. Anyway, a hearty thank you again to all those who stepped up and contributed, and to those actually hitting the links on Monday, fairways and greens, my friends. Me, I'll be at the bar.
Iona Iotas.
Speaking of Hall of Fame, we got a little bit more info regarding the Hall of Fame Invitational on December 11th in Brooklyn. As you know, the pairings of Iona and St. Bonaventure and UMass and Hofstra have been announced a little ways back, and we've learned that rounding out that quartet of games will be Maryland versus Tennessee and Oklahoma State versus Virginia Tech. That's a pretty fun four games right there. It appears will be the third game of the four-game slate, but I can't confirm that just yet. Either way, we'll see you at Broccolino's for an early lunch.
Iona Iotas.
The roster is always fluid in this day and age in college basketball, but that doesn't mean that every report out there holds water. A week or so ago, Norfolk State transfer Jalen Hawkins announced the final list of 3 schools: Iona, Morehead State, and Appalachian State, and that he'd be making his announcement on June 3rd, which was 2 days ago. Hawkins would be a pretty good get. He averaged 13 points a game, almost 4 boards, shot 36% from deep, 6'2" guard. Veteran presence he provided in the backcourt for Iona, so he wouldn't be a bad get by any means. But anyway, all this news sent Iona fans into a tizzy, wondering which current Gale was going to be headed out the door, given that Iona's allotment of scholarships has been met already. Now, I know that sometimes a kid will put out a list like this just for the flair of the dramatic, as honestly, I have never really once suspected he was coming to Iona because we are seemingly done, but you never know. Anyway, as it turns out, again, the June 3rd announcement date has come and gone. No announcement's been made, so we still don't know where Hawkins is going. He's from Brooklyn. Maybe he really wants to come to Iona, and the staff's trying to figure out a way to make it happen. Maybe he really wants to come to Iona, and we told him no. We have no idea. And the kid's just trying to sort out what to do next. That's why no announcements come. Who knows? It's all still a mystery. But one thing's for sure. In the era of recruiting truly never ends, so no outcome here would surprise me. And now, kids who are on our radar in the offer roundup.
I'm going to make them an offer they can't refuse.
The Iona staff is putting in work with the 2023 and 24 classes these days. We started off with a reported offer to class of 2023 6'4" guard Carlton Carrington out of St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. A great shooter and the number 101 player in the 247 Sports 2023 rankings, Carrington has offers from Rutgers, George Mason, VCU, GW, Marquette, Pitt, DePaul, and Loyola Chicago. He's also been quoted as saying he plans to take a visit to Iona soon, among other schools. So this is one we're going to want to keep an eye on moving forward. Moving on, we stay in the class of 2023 with 6'8" power forward Dylan James out of Winter Haven, Florida. A 4-star top 100 recruit on Rivals and ESPN, James has offers from the likes of Alabama, Dayton, Florida, Creighton, Georgetown, Miami, Mississippi State, VCU, Virginia Tech, and a host of others. Iona is also reportedly offered class of 2024 6'2" point guard Adam Najai Jr. out of Hillcrest Prep and originally from Brooklyn. He's got offers from Arizona State, Georgia Tech, TCU, Illinois, and various mid-majors. With that update, we'll now turn to an expert on a player who has already committed to the Gales. Let's welcome in Brandon Goble from JUCO Advocate to give Iona fans a feel for what to expect from Daniss Jenkins. Okay, let's welcome in Brandon Goble. He's a recruiting expert and CEO of JUCO Advocate. You all remember he joined us just about 2 years ago to the day here on this podcast, in the very early stages of this podcast, actually, to walk through some of Iona's incoming recruits at that time, which made sense because Iona went heavy on the JUCO route right after Rick Pitino got the Iona gig. And when I heard we were making moves to get Daniss Jenkins here after the way he blew up at Odessa, Brandon's one of the first people that came to my mind in terms of to recruit to get here on this podcast to talk about him. Brandon, welcome back.
Hey, man. Appreciate you having me on.
So what have you been doing for 2 years since we haven't caught up with you since?
I hear some stuff happen the last 2 years around the world. I don't know, something or something. Basically for the first year since the podcast, I sat in my basement and did podcasts and did a lot of that. But really for the last almost a year now, last August is really kind of when I was able to open back up to traveling. Went to Europe a couple times, did a lot of scouting over there, and things like that. So, it's been an interesting journey so far, but we've been able to continue to grow as a company, grow our presence, get involved in a lot of things, really expanding internationally and kind of, continuing to have a good focus on the junior college world. So it's been good. We came out of the last 2 years quite a bit stronger. And so that's positive. I didn't feel like we stagnated too badly. So.
Well, how did you manage that? I mean, COVID really just shut down a lot of things, and a lot of what you do is based on getting out there and meeting people and getting to know kids and all that. So how did you manage that, for all that time?
The good thing is that I'm pretty tech savvy. We have a lot of access to a lot of stuff. Some of our business partners like Synergy make things much easier for us to continue to stay having the pulse of what's going on out there, not only in junior college, but even international basketball, and, some high school stuff and things. So we were able to do a lot of things remotely, like everyone else was doing remotely. But because of our, relationships and all that sort of thing, we really kind of became the go-to for, a lot of teams with, hey, we can't go out, we can't see these teams.
Right.
We don't understand the context of what's happening. We need you to kind of, keep us abreast of what's happening in the junior college space. Of course, the transfer portal was another thing as well. And so, applying context to those transfer players and all that sort of thing was just another niche that we could easily kind of slide into and do it that way.
So here we have this young man, Daniss Jenkins, out of Dallas. He started his career at Pacific, where he made the WCC all freshman team, all league player the year after that. No small feat in the league when you have teams like Gonzaga, BYU, and St. Mary's there. Right. Then he's at Odessa, becomes a JUCO All-American and one of the top JUCO players in the country. I know you saw him quite a bit at Odessa this past season. Can you tell us about his progression as a player from what we saw at Pacific to what he showed at Odessa?
Yeah, he just, kind of took his game to another level in regards to, his toughness, which, hey, the Division I mid-major WCC, those games, you have to be a tough player to play in those, but it's a different world in junior college. And so I think the mental aspect of it is something that, he probably really focused on this year for, increasing his level of toughness when it comes to that. That translated into, the things he needed to do to improve his game as well. He shot it much, much better this year. He was over 40% from three this season, where he had been under 30% each of the first two seasons at Pacific. And the way that he's shooting now and the rhythm and all that sort of stuff, I think is something that's going to translate for him back to the Division I level. It was just something that it kind of finally clicked. And he's really, really added that to his game now. Where you really have to defend him out on the perimeter, and that allows him to be extra successful at all the other things that he's good at.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, he does fill that stat sheet pretty much. And then that was the one thing that you saw at Pacific was that 3-point shooting percentage. And then all of a sudden he seems to fix it. Do you know of anybody that worked with him on that, or did he just work on something different, change technique, anything that you know of?
Evan Eustace is down there. as an assistant. Evan's got experience in some NBA stuff, some other college experience when he was at Colorado State with his dad for a little bit. Evan does a great job and was probably pretty heavily involved in kind of the day-to-day stuff. Of course, Coach Bucket Bauman is one of the best in the country down there as a head coach, and has produced NBA players and high-level guys, and so he obviously knows what he's doing as well. And so I think Daniss really kind of buying into the work and buying into the environment and the toughness and all that sort of thing really just kind of paid off.
In your mind, how does Jenkins fit the Pitino system? Rick loves those heady veteran guards that can do a little bit of everything. Daniss certainly seems to fit that mold.
Yeah. Daniss is a guy that you can cut loose and trust to make smart shot decisions. He was almost 50% from the field this year. Like when he would have a high volume game, for the most part, it was also a very efficient high volume game. He had 33 against Western Texas. He was 11 to 16 from the floor that night, and just gets in his rhythm. And so Coach Pitino has always had great success with guys that he doesn't need to try and keep in a box. He lets them do what they're good at. And it's not that he doesn't rein them in or, whatever when he needs to, but he recruits guards that are smart, that are heady, that are making good shot choices, and that are efficient so that he doesn't have to, try and really constrain them. And Daniss is, prototypical Coach Pitino type guard.
And of course, when you're a prototypical Pitino type guard, you're going to play some defense. Can you talk about his defense a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, Daniss is a very, very, very active player. He sits down and guards. He's very mobile and athletic, especially horizontally. And so, he's had games this season against some of the best players in the country, and has had good success against them. He has faced guards throughout some of this junior college season that are better than a lot of the guards that he'll face, when he's playing at Iona. And so he's ready. He's ready for that. And of course, taking the experience at Pacific as well, just as, got him prepared on a different level than, kind of your typical JUCO kid.
So Iona's got a couple of guys already established in their lineup. There's some room for somebody to step in, especially in the role that he seems like he's going to be a perfect fit for. From what you know about him as a teammate, how will he blend in with the current guys at Iona like Walter Clayton and Nelly Jr. Joseph?
I think he's going to be great. Daniss he's a sweetheart kid that is going to be a big piece of that team that doesn't say like, hey, I have to be the star. Like he was the star at Odessa, but that's because they asked him to be. He is smart enough to know that, executing within a role is the perfect way for him to be really successful. Now they have a need for him to be really good, but he's a good teammate, and he's somebody that I think the fans are really going to enjoy. The coaches are going to really enjoy coaching, and the guy's really good too. So.
And you just bridged to my final question. I wanted to ask you why Iona fans are going to love him. Can you tell me why?
It's funny in MAC basketball, you've got the, the tough, gritty, small gyms, right? And when you get a guard in there, that's like a popcorn machine where at any moment he can just go berserk. That's a lot of fun. And so for his scoring ability, he's great at all the things, but his scoring ability is something where he's going to have some monster nights, and that's just so much fun to watch when you're in that league and you're in those gyms where the ceiling's low and the fans are packed in there, and a guy like Daniss just takes over a game. It's a ton of fun, and so he's going to be a fan favorite for sure.
Well, Brandon, you're always killing it out there. College basketball needs more people like you. The kids need more people like you out there. And along the way, we're also picking up some good cooking tips from you if anybody follows you on Twitter. So keep up the great work, and we're going to catch up with you again down the line. I appreciate you coming on.
Great. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That's going to do it for this episode of the IonaHoops.com podcast. The summer is here, pretty much. And news slows down a little bit maybe now, but you never know. Keep an eye out. In the meantime, go Gales.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the IonaHoops.com podcast. This podcast is a production of IonaHoops.com and its publisher Guy Filatico. The opinions shared during this podcast are those of Guy Filatico, IonaHoops.com, and any featured guests. This podcast is not affiliated with Iona College Athletics or the college itself. Thank you for supporting IonaHoops.com.